Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Monday, December 9th, 2019. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Let's get right started with some space weather news. Our solar wind speeds coming in at 354.5 kilometers per second with a density of 4.9. Check it out, 25 days in a row now without sunspots. That makes it now 262 days without sunspots in the year 2019. Now, I will report that we are about to set a new space age record without sunspots, and that will be in 7 more days when we are sitting at 269 days without sunspots. Now, a lot of you out there, predictions coming in around 277 and above. I know Mari called 284, and right now, just not seeing any kind of recent development or any active regions that we need to pay attention to at this time. Now, we do monitor things over at thegrandsolarminimum.com on our space weather section, and I'll get to that here just in a minute. But again, 25 days in a row without sunspots, typical minimum conditions right now, and 262 days in 2019 without sunspots. So, and to think we have another year at least of solid minimum conditions. So to see that number again in the 200s for 2020 is more than likely a realistic possibility. Right now, the TCI is sitting at 3.22. That's down just a little bit from the last time when we reported on this. Our KP indices are at a 0, and the 24-hour max has been at a 3. Now, if we have the same conditions in the morning and we have this Earth-facing coronal hole, there is another chance for a strong earthquake to pop off around the 6.5 area. That starts tomorrow, though, so we'll see where the KP indices are at when this coronal hole becomes Earth-facing. And that same coronal hole that I'm pointing out right now, actually, folks, well, I don't have my arrow out here, so that's not going to happen. But if you see right there to the equatorial region, you will see this decent-sized coronal hole. NOAA forecasters are expecting increased solar winds to happen on December 13th and 14th as well. No geomagnetic storms are expected, so that means we're probably looking at the kind of the same moderate solar wind speeds that we had with this last increase, which wasn't much at all, maybe in the low 400s at most at this point, but they are not expecting any kind of space weather to cause a G1 or a G2 geomagnetic storm. The cosmic rays, 10.6%, very high. The 7-day change on this rate is at 2.8%. That is the most I've seen in a 7-day period since we began monitoring this TCI and cosmic rays here at the Grand Solar Minimum channel. And let's take a look at our star as the full picture here. This bottom square, rectangle, whatever you want to call it, represents the big picture of the sun. The black area is where stereo B does not report anymore. And if you look closely, folks, on this map, you will see the 0 is Earth facing. All right, let me show you what I mean by that. Let me get my handy dandy little blue arrow here. This right here is where Earth is. So whatever we have in this area is affecting Earth right now. This is near the eastern limb, so this has not approached us yet. That is the next large coronal hole that we are watching that could give us our increase in solar wind. This is the next one we're watching to happen on December 13th. This is about the only thing that we have right now that resembles a bright active region. But if you look back here beyond the eastern limb, we have nothing in the books as far as upcoming activity or coronal holes. The sun will be quiet. And I gotta be honest with you, that 284 could be a reality. I'm still sticking with my 277, but right now we're pushing it as we are down to the last 21 days of the year, 22 days. So we'll see what happens. Right now we've got 25 days in a row without sunspots, and that could continue well into 2020 at this point, what we're looking at here. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some headlines tonight. First thing I want to talk about, 2 things in New Zealand. First, wild weather strands 1,000 tourists, spawns over 850,000 lightning strikes over New Zealand. Says here more than 857,000 lightning strikes have been recorded over New Zealand in 72 hours. That was according to local time on Friday, December 6th. Severe storms, landslides, slips, and flooding in the South Island cut off towns and trapped roughly about 1,000 foreign tourists. Evacuation orders have been issued in the Timaru district between Christchurch and Dunedin, where flooding has cut off State Highway 1. But guys, the real story, 850,000 lightning strikes. Here is a graphic of that in motion. Holy cow. And you're saying to yourself, how does that happen? How do you get that many lightning strikes in less than 72 hours? And I'll tell you how. Let's go back and take a look, shall we? Look down at the bottom, folks, of your star where it says Space Weather Station, and today is 10.6% very high. That is the cosmic ray dosing today. And that's been high for the last 7 days. So we've been bombarded here recently with very high cosmic rays across the globe. We saw it drop all the way down to 8.5%. It's been getting stronger and stronger. And as you can see, the 7-day change has been 2.8%. So when I see something like this, it makes sense to me because of how highly charged our atmosphere is right now. This is interesting to me because we talk about climate change a lot on this channel. And, you know, if you talk to anybody who follows this channel or other channels like it, they're going to tell you that they believe in climate change because the climate is changing. And it has everything to do with what this channel stands for. And I'll get more into that later. Let's take a look at some more footage here. This is some flooding here near Wellington. So we're dealing with rain, flooding, lightning strikes. Very, very dangerous situation here for folks. Very wet. And also it kind of coincides with what we're experiencing here in the Northeast is a massive system. Not bringing this kind of moisture, but nonetheless, we are getting pounded right now with rain as we speak up here in the Northeast. Check out some more footage here. It says the office said it established contact with stranded tourists for aid. Westland Mayor Bruce Smith said food and water deliveries have been arranged for those that were stuck. Officials fear that the aftermath of flooding and landslides may take months to clear up. A state of emergency has been declared for Timaru after the Rangatanga River burst its banks. Moreover, the river may reach its highest levels in 20 years following this major storm front. And just another familiar sight that we've seen all over the world: India, Spain, Greece, Italy, UK, the United States of America, Mexico, you name it. We have seen flooding scenes like this all over the world all year this year. And to say that we haven't seen an increase this year is just, you're not paying attention, obviously. All right, let's move on to another story here in New Zealand. White Island volcano erupts, killing at least 5 people and injuring 20. This is also in New Zealand. An impulsive short-lived eruption occurred at New Zealand's White Island volcano at 1:11 UTC on December 9th. The volcanic alert level was raised to 3 and aviation code was to orange. The eruption affected the crater floor where up to 50 tourists were located at the time. According to police reports by 9:10 UTC, at least 5 people had been killed, 20 were injured, and 8 are still missing. An unknown number of people are still on the island. Both New Zealanders and overseas tourists are believed to be involved. Police is currently taking advice from the GeoNet experts who have advised that due to the current risk of environment, emergency services remain unable to access the island. And this was according to New Zealand police at 9:10 UTC. While it was initially believed there were approximately 100 people on or near the island at the time of the eruption, we now believe there was fewer than 50. Some of those people have been transported to shore. However, a number believed to be on the island are currently unaccounted for. Unfortunately, they are feared to be dead as well. A volcanic eruption is hazardous in the immediate vicinity of the volcano. Volcanic hazards may impact on or near the volcano. Ashfall may impact areas distant from the volcano. People should stay out of the designated restricted zones A no-fly zone has also been established. And we'll take a look at some satellite data here from the eruption off of the White Volcano. Again, 5 people right now killed, 20 people have been injured, with 8 unaccounted for, and hopefully their rescue will be very, very soon. But here is a look at the explosion here. You see some tourists not sure what's going on. People waiting to leave the island, that's for sure. A volcano pops off like that. Nobody was expecting this. Again, we'll leave the links in the description, folks, but you can go over to watchers.news yourself to check all this footage out here. Also, more reports will come in. We will update everyone as soon as we get more details on the eruption, the status of the people that are missing, and hopefully the people that were injured recover very, very quickly as well. All right, let's go ahead to the states and talk about what we experienced here. Snowy Iowa pileup injures 1 as 50 cars will collide. That's amazing. When you talk about 50 cars and only 1 person is injured, that is an amazing stat right there. At least 50 vehicles were involved in a pileup on I-80 near Des Moines, Iowa. At least 1 person was seriously injured in the crash. Now, intense blowing snow caused multiple vehicles to collide with each other in a pileup along Interstate 80 on Monday morning. At least 1 person seriously injured and more than 50 vehicles were involved in the crash westbound lanes of I-80 near Altoona, Iowa. As a result, all westbound lanes were closed for more than an hour after the pileup, which began at about 11 a.m. local time, Iowa State Patrol Sergeant Alex Dinkla told Associated Press. Visibility dropped to about 1/4 mile. Wind gusts were up to 30 miles per hour as blew around the snow, according to weather.com meteorologist Chris Dulce. This was a pretty classic example of a snow squall visibility drop. Visibility was 10 miles before the crash, only 1/4 during the crash, and is now back up to 8 miles after the crash. Again, check back for more updates on this particular situation. But as of now, thankfully, we are lucky to only have to deal with 1 serious injury, while the rest of us just got away with maybe some bumps and bruises. Bundle up. Coldest air of the year is yet to come, and it's going to plunge in the Midwest. We talked about this last week. An invasion of Arctic air will plunge temperatures in the lowest level since last winter and may set the stage for the biggest lake effects event snow so far this season in the Midwestern part. This week's deep freeze can come as a shock to Midwestern residents who have not experienced an extreme cold snap since November 10th through the 13th. During this stretch, single-digit lows were recorded in Minneapolis. The cold will prove to be more intense, longer lasting, and even dangerous for people and animals who are outside for long periods of time. Let's remember that we were talking a few days ago about a stratospheric warming event that's taking place in the Arctic, and I kind of just said, you know, December might be just an average month in temperatures, and here we're talking about record cold, very cold Arctic air will plunge southward into the northern and central plains through Monday and into the Great Lakes and Midwest by Monday and Tuesday. Boston expects some locations from the eastern Dakotas to Minnesota, and Boston is the meteorologist, by the way, and northern Wisconsin to remain below 0 degrees for a period of 24 to 28, let's get this straight, 24 to 48 hours from Monday night into Wednesday night. To make matters worse, the combination of frigid air, wind, and other factors will result in AccuWeather real feel temperatures between 10 and 30 degrees below 0 across the northern plains and upper Midwest on Tuesday and Wednesday. And this blue graphic right here is going to show you the sharp cold air, the rapid freeze up, 20 to 30 degrees below difference in the dark blue, and a 10 to 20 degrees lower difference in the light blue. Knowing how to spot cold weather dangers such as frostbite and hypothermia is critical when spending time outdoors in these sorts of punishing cold snaps. Experts also urge pet owners to ensure that pets are not kept outside too long and outdoor animals have proper shelter and warmth during this extended period of extreme cold. So here is Wednesday, and that cold will stick around in the Minneapolis area, parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Traverse City, Michigan, and then you get into New York, 10 to 20 degrees below average, not too hateful, but still cold. Even people along the central Gulf Coast will feel some of the chill, with highs in the upper 50s to near 60 on Wednesday, and that is chilly for the South. All right, so my next article, written by our very own Mari, this came to our attention this morning. Thanks to David Dubine, Adapt 2030. He reached out this morning and was talking to us about what's going on and his previous experience with Piers Corbyn and others in the UK. He came across a video of a person by the name of John Kitson. Now, I don't know a lot about Mr. Kitson. He is a candidate who is trying to be elected over there in the UK, and he's an independent. And I'll kind of set this up for you real quick. But he is at a political event, a debate stage, and was denied access on this stage, even though he paid the £500 fee to register as a candidate and to be able to run against other candidates from the Green Party. Now, what you're going to hear a lot here is that the Green Party is not for democracy, because this man was denied because of his views on climate change. And the person that told him he couldn't speak on stage actually went as far as to say that climate deniers have shared the stage with such people like Holocaust deniers. So let's go ahead and watch real quick, guys. You won't believe this. I'll go ahead and play this.
The question of the event is, how should Green Party members vote?
Right, I
when
see.
they can't vote for a Green Party member.
Right, okay.
So all of the people here are people who
Yep.
are voting with an understanding of the climate science.
I'll pause this right here. Let me expand this a little bit for us. That was a little bit too much there.
Okay. You are a climate skeptic who argues that CO2 is good for everybody. You have invited people to this town who are climate skeptics who've shared stages with Holocaust deniers.
Did you hear that? We've had people in the past who are climate skeptics who have shared the stage with people like the Holocaust deniers. That's why that's their reasoning for not allowing people who don't agree with the consensus on climate change.
And this is an event which is for people in this town who are already up to speed with climate change.
I'm not denying that the climate is changing.
I've
read your things,
the
Holocaust.
I've read your things.
So I don't know what you're talking about.
You have invited people to this town who have.
So basically, this is not a free speech event then? It's not for all the candidates, therefore this is not democratic, is
These
it?
people are here because they would otherwise be voting Green.
Oh,
so
really?
So they are voting motivated by the climate emergency.
Okay.
You
yep.
don't believe in the climate emergency.
I do believe there's a
so
climate
you really
emergency.
Have nothing.
Check this out. John Kinston himself puts here the real climate emergency. That is our website, folks.
I believe we're polluting the planet, but you know, I may not share the same views as you, but that's democracy.
Yeah, but
Isn't
like I
it?
said, you need. I'm just chairing. You need to talk to the Green Party. They haven't invited
Right.
you, and
Okay.
they've asked me to
So
chair.
who
So you're not invited.
represents the Green Party here tonight?
I don't know, but all I can say is, from my own perspective, I've seen the things that you do and the people you've put on, and you are
Yep.
allied with all manner of climate deniers and climate skeptics.
No one's
This
a
is an
climate
event.
denier.
This is an event.
Climate's
for
always
these-
been changing.
This is this is an event.
Don't
for people
yell.
Who are up to speed with the climate science, who understand the climate science, unlike
Right.
you, and
Unlike me.
and who are here because
what
that's
way?
what they want to discuss. Okay.
Look at how we're being treated, folks. Look at how we're being treated. I don't know this John Kinston. I know he is running for office. We share the same views about the climate. And thank you, Mr. Kinston, for a shameless plug on the Grand Solar Minimum website. Actually, that was at thegrandsolarminimum.com, where he was showing the real climate emergency titled Grand Solar Minimum. And he's right. He's absolutely right. The climate is changing, and this is why. Grand Solar Minimum. 2019 general election candidate John Kinston was initially blocked from appearing on stage with the other candidates at a hosting organized by the South Devon Green Party. It cost him £500 for a deposit to run as a candidate for the general election He was told he was not invited nor welcome to join the other candidates on stage. Rob Hopkins, the founder of Transition Network and Transition Town Totens, explained that this was an event organized by the Green Party and that asked him to chair. He stated the question for this evening's meeting: how should Green Party members vote when they can vote for a Green Party member? So all the people are here with the understanding of climate science. Yes, that's right. John Kinston, because he believes in natural climate science, he is now being told that he doesn't understand climate science, even though John Kinston is promoting the truth, and these people here in the Green Party are clearly promoting a lie and a hoax. Hopkins goes to say, you are a climate skeptic who argues that CO2 is good for everybody. Absolutely. John, I am on your side with that one, bud. It is good for everyone. He falsely accused Kinston of sharing the same stage with Holocaust deniers and that people in this town are up to speed with what's going on with climate change. Hopkins continued falsely to accuse Kinston of not believing in a climate emergency. We at the Grand Solar Minimum channel would like to thank John Kinston for spreading awareness of natural cycles, with our sun being the primary driver of the climate in his latest video. It is important we have people working within our local communities to break through the thick climate dogma in these political parties. We applaud those who are doing their part and battling adversity to push the human race forward. And I want to thank Mari for writing this article. But the best part, she doesn't stop here. She puts in the IPCC Wealth Distribution System video that was also featured on this channel as well, with this guy here. Pretty much breaks it down for us and shows us how much money the IPCC stands to make. Obstruction of truth for fiscal gain, abuse of consensus, the 97% hoax. We're pointing out the obvious here in this article. In fact, what I invite everybody to do who calls you a climate skeptic, I want you to send them this article. I want you to point out the truth in this article that Mari put together here. Obstruction of truth for fiscal gain. Let's read what she says here. Our scientists and academic scholars are pressed to support the false narrative of man-made climate change. If you have an opposing view or research that goes against the IPCC climate agenda, forget funding for your research, or even being able to continue to hold your position at a university. Mari is going to also mention the part here that Mrs. Crockford, who was fired for telling people, 15 years as an assistant professor, Ms. Crockford said the University of Victoria rejected without explanation in May for her renewal application, despite her high profile as a speaker and author stemming from her widely cited research on polar bears. And also, she's the one telling everybody in Canada, Victoria, that the polar bear population is thriving. That's what got her fired, for telling the truth. Valentina Zarkova has been fighting to keep her paper published because the paper is in total upset to the AGW theory. I find it funny that people fighting back her work are AGW activists with vested interest. Her paper outlines oscillations of the baseline solar magnetic field are found and associated with long-term solar inertial motion about the barycenter of the solar system and closely linked to an increase of solar radiance and terrestrial temperature in the past 2 centuries. This trend is anticipated to continue in the next 6 centuries that can lead to a further natural increase of terrestrial temperature by more than 2.5 degrees Celsius by 2600. So all you people out there freaking out about Valentina Zarkova talking about 2.5 degrees warming in 600 years, take it easy. None of you are going to be here, and this is all going to be natural anyway. Climate skeptics do not deny natural climate change. Bottom line. We have seen many bogus studies and petitions about climate change circling. One of the more recent polls had Dr. Mickey Mouse sign that essentially climate change is your fault. That's right. Mickey Mouse says so, so it must be true. And she's talking about the 11,000 scientists. Daffy Duck was in there as well. What was it? A couple of Harry Potter characters as well. Mari does a good job of breaking it down here on the consensus. Green is voted for on the viewpoint, voted AGW 1%, 66% took no position. So out of the 97% of the people who say that the science is settled, 66% of that 97% actually didn't take a position on this. And 33% of that 97% actually voted for it or with it. Oh, wait, am I misspeaking? It's voted on the viewpoint, I guess, and only 1% voted HEW. Wow. Here's the numbers in a breakdown. 11,000 people polled during this breakdown. 7,970 people took no position on this. 3,974 voted on a viewpoint. 64 people voted out of 11,994. Only 1.6% of these people voted that man is the reason why climate is changing. So how are we even getting this 97% stuff in the first place? And that's why Mari wrote this article. She's had enough, so have I. We've seen it from time to time now. People getting ridiculed and being called climate deniers because they don't believe in the man-made theory. That's not true, folks, and that's not fair. Especially to people who do the research, who cite peer-reviewed papers like Zarkova's work and Heinrich Finsmark and his cloud nucleation theory and the work of Dr. Jasper Kirksby at CERN. John Casey. I mean, the list goes on. We're not over here, you know, quoting The Guardian or the Daily Mail or anything like that. We're taking this information from professional, qualified people. Again, folks, we are reporting on the grand solar minimum, okay? My job here at this channel is to correlate stories and weather events that fit the science of grand solar minimum. That's it. That's what we do here. We help connect the dots. And we're also calling out these people who claim to be a democracy, but when you block somebody from debating on stage against the candidates that you're running against, how's that a democracy? In other words, if you don't understand what we understand, then you're not welcome to be here. I find that very, very scary. I find that super concerning that a political member does not get to express his views and ideas. He wasn't even going to talk about climate change. He promised them, I'm not talking about climate change, I promise you. In fact, he made an announcement, if you guys watch this video, that he's going to donate his entire salary. He's not even going to take money for this position. So, again, climate awareness, climate science in the consensus point of view is a joke. And this video will make your stomach turn. I suggest everybody watch this. We'll leave the video embedded here.
So I'm not going to waste their time with a load of stuff about why the climate change isn't happening.
Who said it's not happening?
The stuff that you.
When did I say it's not happening? I never said it's not happening.
Corbyn and people like that in this town.
He's an astrophysicist.
I love it. The guy was trying to throw.
He's got qualifications.
Anyway, so that is
exactly. And John seems like a bright guy on that side of things. He's got qualifications. He's an astrophysicist. So yeah, I'm going to listen to Piers Corbyn as well. Dr. Zarkova. I'm going to listen to her. She has a PhD in astrophysics, bachelor's, I believe, or master's, I'm sorry, in mathematics. Yeah, we're listening and reporting about people who are qualified to deal with this. We're not using people like Bill Nye and Neil Tyson, whatever his name is, that one guy. We're not using actors to relay our message. We're not using musicians to tell everyone to freak out. But I do like how John points out in his video here on his YouTube channel that the real climate emergency starts with this right here. The grand solar minimum. It's climate change. That we know. Also, talking to David earlier today, and I want to report that I was happy to hear that there's been a lot of comments out there, people asking about John Casey. And according to David Devine, he is doing well. And the one thing that we need to make sure we don't get caught up on, folks, is all of this climate, the cold, the warm, the cold. We have to remember that we are going to see a maximum, a very weak maximum, but we will see weather at some point between 2023 and 2026 go back to sort of normal, where we get normal, you know, not too much, because the sunspot max is not going to be, you know, some people are saying 91 to 110. Some people think it could be 50. If it's 50, that's trouble. So we got to remember that it's not just about climate. It's not just about being cold every year, that we're going to see some flexibility on this. But we need to remember, not only we're going to be dealing with different climate situations and shorter growth seasons, but we're also going to worry about geological events that will also contribute to the issue as well. So again, I want to thank Mari for putting time into this article and breaking it down for the truth that it is. We need more people like John Kitson who believe that climate change is not me and you's fault. It is the sun. It always will be the sun. It always has been the sun. And that the climate needs to be a topic of this discussion when we talk about the grand solar minimum. But we also need to continue to focus on things like what happened today in New Zealand. Volcano eruptions suddenly going off. Earthquakes. That type of stuff. We're still dealing with the dangers of solar storms, especially during a weaker magnetic connection and a max. We get a solar flare, that could cause some serious problems. Again, thanks to Mari for hooking us up with this article and these videos. Guys, go to our website, thegrandsolarminimum.com, for more coverage on that. And while we're here, let's go ahead and take a look at our current radar. So we get this map to load up real fast, folks. So we're dealing with lots of rain here in the Midwest, all the way from Texas to Maine right now. Ohio Valley, you're now starting to taper down that rainfall. The Northeast, we are seeing temperatures in the 40s, upper 40s by tomorrow. And with all that rain and upper 40s, you're talking about snow melt as well. So we could be dealing with some pretty decent flash flooding. Snow to the northern regions here, Michigan and parts of Wisconsin, and then Timmins, Ontario, also seeing some snow showers. Thunder Bay, that is now winding down for you as well. Take a look at our current wind chills. The upper Midwest, the northern plains, they're getting ready for that Arctic cold air, as we can already start to see signs of a temperature contrast as very, very considerably cold. In Minnesota, -8 degrees is the wind chill in parts of North Dakota, -10 near the Canadian border in Minnesota. Let's take a look at tomorrow. Well, actually, this was today, and it's done every bit of this. Rain, mixed precip, you name it. It's all over. Some icing earlier in Iowa, which is what caused the 50-car pileup. And, of course, Wisconsin also saw some of that as well. Tomorrow, frozen precip from the northeast still. Chances of showers along the east coast and the deep south. And then by the time we get to Wednesday of this week, snow develops in the northern plain states and across the northeast, as these 2 days of mild weather here Monday and Tuesday will quickly fade away, and we'll be back to cold air once again in the north and the northeast. Showers and storms across the eastern part of the United States with, believe it or not, folks, Boston, Philadelphia, New York. There's a good shot for you guys of getting some decent snowfall as this storm moves out. Let's take a look at our weather charts here, as this one's frozen. All right. Got to the right, you have your temperature. We have the precipitation to the left. We have winds to the bottom left. And right now, folks, it is the calm before the storm. We're getting that ridging. That mild air is going up the east coast before a blast of Arctic cold air will affect the northern parts of the United States and the northeast. But that will be short-lived, and I'll discuss that here in the Tropical Tidbits GFS Outlook. Now, let's take a look at this. This is where we are currently. This rainstorm will move out. There's that snow I was talking about for Philly, New York City, Boston. Could see a 3 to 8 inches of snow after this storm pulls out. And then much colder air behind that for Thursday and Wednesday as well, as lake effect snows across New York and parts of Maine. Also light snow showers. Northern parts of the United States, the Northwest, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, chances for rain and snow. as we have a couple of different systems trying to get their act together by December 13th. By the end of this week, another major low pressure system will invade the Northeast. And again, it's riding that ridge of mild air. So this will be an all rain event again. When this storm is over with, it'll wrap some cold air in the backside of it, and we could end as snow showers. As we get to Sunday, December 15th, another storm system is developing across the Ohio Valley. That looks like it could see about 3 to 5 inches as that races off into the eastern part of the United States. And then once again, December 17th, more rain for the south and the east. Colder air trying to make its way through in the northern parts of the United States to bring some snow. And by the time we get to Friday, December 20th, another major low pressure system across the Tennessee Valley. And also you got to take your eyes into the northwest at Washington, Seattle, and Northern California. Again, more snow for the Sierras and California mountains. I want to report this too. Some mountains in the California area have received over 100 inches of snow. Last year this time, it took almost till December, I think, 15th before we see that kind of snowfall. So the snow is here earlier than it was last year, especially in the large amounts. Chances for white Christmas. If you live in the Northwest and possibly the Northeast and the Northern Plains, you have a chance of getting at least 1 inch to 1/2 inch of snow. This forecast here is going to bring us that snow. So we are looking at Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York on Christmas Eve, snow. And by Christmas morning, the system will be gone. Some lake effects for northeastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania, and western New York, south towns of Buffalo on Christmas Day to kind of give it a fresh look. And then high pressure will dominate, and it will be cold on Christmas Day. So if you live in the Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Maine, that is probably the best area for a white Christmas. The second best area for a white Christmas is going to be in the Northeast. The Northwest. So this is a system that we will watch right around Christmas. December 23rd, Ohio, you'll get your snow. It'll be cold enough to stick around too. So this will be a white Christmas for you folks. White Christmas for western Pennsylvania, white Christmas for western New York at least. With the temperatures dropping down to below freezing and staying there for a while, the consistency of what I've seen for the prediction of this winter is there. And that is the Ohio, the Midwest, and the Northeast is going to receive the most cold and the most snow. And we're not even in the first day of winter, and we're already seeing that trend starting now. It's been doing this since October. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you for tuning in to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Again, visit our website for the article that Mari wrote about John Kinston and his censorship, even though he paid his dues to be a part of that debate, fair and square, just like everybody else. All right, guys, we'll see you in the morning. Until then, we will talk soon, and take care.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.